Welcome to part 3 of Tobago Chronicles, a series that by now you know focuses on the accomplishments of Tobago's sons and daughters in the development of independent Trinidad and Tobago. And we are now looking at the late 60s and early 70s. So in this episode, the feature will be on a number of Tobagonians, including E.N.R. Robinson, J.D. Elder, Doddridge Allen, and Calypso Rose. They had dominated the political sphere, the cultural sphere, and so we will look at what they have contributed in this segment that I did some time ago. Then, in the second segment, we will spend some time looking at Push, its own story, and Anne-Marie will have with her some of the Youth Bill personnel on set. So stay tuned for the second segment. Don't go anywhere. We tune now to the reflective, the Tobago Chronicles Part 3. Tobagonian endeavor during the 1960s was significantly acknowledged when the national awards were introduced in 1969. Victor Bruce and Carlton R. Otley were among the distinguished citizens the nation bestowed titles at the inaugural Independence Day Awards. In that year, Victor Bruce became the third central bank governor and the first local to be installed in the position. 3 years earlier, he filled the position of deputy governor, transferring from the position of permanent secretary. He truly deserved the Hummingbird Medal Gold he received on that Independence Day. Carlton Otley was awarded Public Service Medal of Merit Gold. He had retired as Director of Community Development and was also recognized as historian for the historical publications he authored in the 25 years before 1969. His titles included the first extensive publication on Tobago's history, authored by a Tobagonian. It was titled The Story of Tobago. He was also acknowledged as the first person to write on the social history and folklore of Trinidad and Tobago. In 1970, the highest ranking Tobagonian in the Defense Force was awarded the Public Service Medal of Merit Silver for his courage and patriotism during the Army Revolt earlier that year. Captain Julian Spencer is remembered as a patriot in the arrest of army mutineers during the height of the Black Power protests in April 1970. The Williams government introduced a national state of emergency that agitated some in the lower ranks of the army who were sympathetic to the leaders of the Black Power struggle. Tetron Barracks was taken over by these soldiers, and after a 1-week standoff, the soldiers agreed to surrender to the loyalist forces. The political democracy of young Trinidad and Tobago had survived a major threat. The state of emergency in April 1970 had another type of response involving a Tobagonian. It was the resignation of Arthur N.R. Robinson, who had risen to Deputy Prime Minister in the Williams administration. He resigned in protest of Williams' approach to handling the rising tide of discontent within society. Within 1 year, Arthur N.R. Robinson was spearheading the No Vote campaign, as he sought the return to electoral processes using the ballot box rather than the voting machine. He was unsuccessful. Dr. Eric Williams continued to use the voting machine, which Robinson and others felt led to the rigging of the general elections prior.
Because I know that many people felt and still feel that the PNM and Dr. Williams had achieved a great success by, they thought, winning all the seats. In fact, in my view, it was the opposite. I and the party I represented, or the combination I represented, achieved exactly what it sought to achieve. And did not contest the election because he wanted it to be clear that the country was controlled by Dr. Williams and the PNM. And Dr. Williams was forced to appoint a Constitution Commission. That is the reason why the Constitution Commission was appointed under Sir Hugh Wooding. And when that report was received, Dr. Williams rejected the report and he severely castigated the report and Sir Hugh Wooding in particular for about 3 hours. That was the result of the no vote campaign.
Amidst all this political activity, another Tobago son had emerged as a distinguished and respected medical practitioner who was elevated to the position of Hospital Medical Director at Port of Spain General Hospital. He assumed leadership in 1970 and remained at the helm until 1982. We refer to Dr. David Kwamina, who was also the first Tobagonian to be named president of Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. He served in the 1970-71 term. Dr. Kwamina was considered the foremost dermatologist of his era in the Caribbean. This Lekoto-born man, who was schooled in Paltavia, Bishops and QRC, went on to obtain master's qualifications in medicine from Dublin University in Ireland. Then he specialized in internal medicine at Edinburgh University and finally earned higher specialist qualifications in dermatology from Cardiff University. His services were sought in England, where he functioned for 3 years before he opted to return to share his medical expertise in the newly independent country. From 1962, Dr. David Kwamina was the head of dermatology in the country, operating out of Port of Spain General Hospital, and he also lectured in the field at the University of the West Indies. It is widely acknowledged that he established the first dermatology clinics in this country. Over the next 20 years, Dr. Kwamina also published several papers on dermatology and other subjects, which were extensively cited in academia. In that same period, Dr. Kwamina performed charitable work for several organizations, maintaining a level of compassion within hospital circles and also in the larger society via his involvement with voluntary organizations. These included the Port of Spain Rotary Club, the Boy Scouts Association, and the Association for the Deaf, which he led at different times. In some respect, It was the creativity of the Tobago child that gave the country outlets that were more palatable to society. As indicated before, one of the signal moments in Tobago's cultural history occurred in 1967 at Queen's Hall, when the Bell Garden community performed on stage and captivated its audience with a rousing exhibition of Tobago folklore, music, song, dance, and artistic talent. The occasion was the finals of the Prime Minister's Best Village Trophy competition that was specially revamped to commemorate the 5th anniversary of Trinidad and Tobago's independence. Before 1967, the competition was limited to specific areas of culture, such as handicraft or folk concerts. However, in 1967, the competition was expanded. The main mind behind this being Dr. J.D. Elder. The categories now included folk literature, folk music, folk dance, local foods, and art, including handicraft. Mount St. George folk performers brought a brand of performing arts that ensured them 2 successive wins in 1971 and 1972 in the Best Village Folk category. Mon Diablo and Siparia dominated this competition in that period. But Tobago folk groups' scintillating performances in earlier years did not produce the ultimate victory. Mount St. George's phenomenal achievements were credited to all-round giftedness of its folk director, Roll Axback Titus. Thereafter, the major folk groups were forced to lift their standards in all categories to repel onslaught from the masterful Tobago performers in the biggest cultural event in TNT after Carnival. In the 1970s, the music amateurs excelled in the biennial music festival. And one tenor, Junior Archer, elicited high praise from the foreign adjudicators as he captured the prestigious Champion Cup male in the music festivals of 1972 and 1976, before he migrated. On his return to this country, Junior Archer also captured the all-round trophy in 1982, receiving tremendous accolades from the well-known and highly distinguished adjudicator, Dr. Havelock Nelson.
And so in 1970, though I sang the solo, I did not sing it well because I was afraid to sing by myself. However, having gained some confidence that I could sing by myself in the 1970 trial, as I would call it, and then I've been asked to sing solo at church more frequently, I got confidence that I could sing. Mr. McCarty and my uncle who started the quartet, Joseph Henry, they both told me, go out in the bush, in the pasture, where I had my animals, where nobody would hear me, and lift up your voice and sing. So just sing as strong as you could. And I tried that a few times, started to feel comfortable, recognized that the voice was no longer the boyish voice, but it started to be able to project well. And I brought that into the festival in 1972. My uncle was surprised when he heard me sing the song the first time, because he wanted to know where was this little sheepish voice just changed to this powerful voice. And I was comfortable. Sang it through it well. The adjudicator was pleased. I got I got exactly 90, if I remember well, at my first festival in Tobago. I went on to Port of Spain. Now, excuse me, at that time, the winning soloist or winning part of any category, they would pick 9 persons. In the case of a solo, it would be the best tenor, over 90 marks, the best baritone, over 90 marks, the best bass, over 90 marks, and all 3 from the three areas, Tobago, San Fernando, and Port of Spain, would meet in Port of Spain for the championship. So I was the winning tenor in Tobago. I don't remember if there were others, but I was the winning tenor in Tobago who got 90 marks. There was no other soloist who got 90 marks, and therefore I was the only representative for the open class in this category for open singers, where there should have been 9 if there were 3, but I was the only one, so there were only 7 of us. And I went to Port of Spain, and interestingly enough, I was the last to sing that night. And the adjudicator said that he thought, based on the response of the audience, that the winning baton was taken from one person to the other to the other. And everybody was sure that a certain good friend of mine had won that night. Should I call his name? Yeah, Mr. Maurice Brash, because he really, you know Maurice Brash. He's a very good singer, but the audience thought that Maurice had won that night until I sang, and the crowd erupted. I felt good when I was walking off stage, and then the adjudicator commented on how he thought the baton was going, and the audience thought Maurice had won. But then after I sang, I got the championship. And in '76 I went back, and again I busted. As they would say, I busted through. So I won again in '76, and I left Trinidad in 1977 to go to university in the States. I spent 5 years out there. Came back after festival in 1982. So I didn't participate in 82. Then I went back in 84 and won again. And then I skipped some years. I can't remember which years I went in and which years I didn't, but I know I went several and won several. I remember one year I participated, and what is this? He's a good friend of mine. Tall fella, he teaches, I think he teaches in CIC or one of those schools there. Kamabach, Edward Kamabach, I guess you heard that name. He won. I sang in that year, and he won that year. He participated in several categories, and he won several. He was the most outstanding performer that year. He did very well. I didn't win that year, and he never went back to festival. I went back to festival after that, and during the years up to after 2000, I went to festival on different occasions. Some years I say, I'm not going, and then I'll go back and win again.
In that period too, Eric Roach excited the literary arts fraternity from the mid-1960s with poetry and 2 theatrical productions that eventually brought Tobago-centric appeal into theater arts. Bel Fanto won acclaim from the creme de la creme in the theater field. In that period, this 1966 theatrical work was performed by Derek Walcott's company. Sadly, in 1974, the gifted Eric Roach, playwright and poet, disappeared in the waters off Quinam Beach in Trinidad. This before he could receive numerous accolades from different personalities and organizations in Trinidad. He died a year after writing a powerful and in-depth masterpiece article in the Trinidad Guardian, where he did much freelance work. His article, Why Nearby Tobago is So Different, became a reference text of Tobago-Trinidad dissimilarities. It apparently inspired Tobagonians to fully express themselves on the national stage without shedding an ounce of Tobagonianness. In the mid-1970s, there was an explosion of Tobago's success in diverse fields that stunned many Trinidad folks. Mighty Shadow came from nowhere to win the Road March title in 1974 with the monster hit Bassman, delivered also with his trademark dance.
I was planning to forget Calypso, to go and plant peace in Tobago, but I am afraid I can't make it great. Every night I lie down in my bed, I hearing a bassman in my head. Bum, bum, bidim, bum. Bum, 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 bidim, bum. Bum, 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 bidim, bum. Bum, 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 bum. I don't know this thing that's inside me. Mama, every morning, it's driving me crazy. Like it taking me.
That composition and another one titled I Come Out to Play almost gave him Calypso King crown in 1974. However, the judges awarded the crown to the Mighty Sparrow. Within 3 years of this 1974 monster hit, Shadow operated his own Calypso tent, Masters Den. Considered at the time an unusual move for Calypsonians in Trinidad, other than Sparrow and Kitchener. Shortly thereafter, Lord Nelson from Plymouth, domiciled in Brooklyn, returned to Trinidad in 1976 and captivated audiences with his simple but highly infectious La La.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Yes.
That song swept the Road March honors. And if that was not enough, Calypso Rose, denied in 1966, stepped back into the limelight and took the crown singing tempo in 1977 and repeated her triumph with Do Them Back to take Road March title in 1978.
I took the Calypso Queen. I won 4 titles in 1978. And as I say, I thank thee, I bow, and I exported my music.
The Begonians had virtually broken the monopoly of Kitchener and Sparrow on Road March titles with 4 successes in 5 years.
Welcome to our retrospective look at the 25-year history of the Push Foundation. In earlier programs, we focused on the overall vision and diverse projects of this remarkable organization that has been in existence from 2002 to 2007. And during that period, over 400 young persons would have participated in one of their signature projects, the Youth Build program. Today, we explore in depth the experiences, the exploits, the journey of persons who were involved and impacted by the Youth Build program. We have in studio with us today one such person, Mr. Wayne John.
Hi.
Mr. John, welcome to Tobago Chronicles.
Thank you for having me.
Now you look quite young, not 25 years.
Way past 25.
Way past 25. So tell me, you were involved with the Youth Build program. What cycle were you in?
I was a part of Cycle 6 in the Youth Build program.
Oh, okay. So do you know the total number of cycles the program had?
I believe it would have gone on to 2 cycles after I would have left. So in all, more than likely would have been about 8 cycles.
Well, it is interesting for me that you actually remember that you were in cycle 6.
Yeah.
So tell me what that means. What was significant about that?
Cycle 6. I have a few fond memories of my cycle. I remember vividly going through the process of the orientation, which was a very important process to go through in order to become a Youth Build member. It was a sort of a retreat where you would have been privy to a lot of activities. One such activity that I remember was the ballroom dancing. This is something that I always loved to see, and getting the first-hand teachings and tutorials and the intricate steps and stuff like that was.
So you actually did ballroom dancing?
Yes.
And that was part of your orientation?
Orientation, because it was a process by which we were, to get to know one another, to be involved, to have more of a hands-on kind of thing to go into the actual program.
Okay, so walk me through just so that our viewers get a vivid image of what this is. So how old were you to start with when you joined the Youth Build program?
Oh, that was quite a while back. But
now I know that it catered for persons between 17 and 25.
And 25.
So you had to be somewhere in that range.
Could have been 23 to 22, somewhere thereabouts.
Okay, so you're a young man, you're in the prime of your life, and you heard about this program, you decided to sign up. So tell me, what was that first experience getting into the Youth Build program? What stood out for you most? Now, I know you said the ballroom dancing. Outside of the ballroom dancing, what stood out for you most about getting into the program?
Into the program, what stood out for me most is, of course, videography.
Okay.
We had access to several training programs.
Yes.
There was a sort of a bit of a history lessons. We had etiquette and personal development, swimming. There was food and beverage.
Okay.
Beauty culture, computer literacy,
Yes.
a lot. But one of them was the videography classes, video taping classes, where we had access to learning camera, learning how to edit. The tutor was Mr. Labor Jack from Pembroke, and I always wanted to be involved in media and communication, anything to do with TV. But for me, it was always I want to be, in front of the camera. But when I got to Youth Build and saw the class, videography class, I decided to be involved to at least get to know the ins and outs of behind the scenes.
So everyone at the program had to do all of these skills, or you had to select?
It was based on your liking, what you were, what you like to do. So some would go, here and there doing different things. But there was the training period where, or the first set of weeks where everyone was together. Everyone
and that was orientation.
That was orientation, and that ended with I think it was a weekend or a week of in living in kind of retreat.
Okay, so you actually stayed in.
Stayed in, yes.
That must have been interesting. Yes. Now tell me some behind the scenes thing. What happened? What was that living in experience like? Because here you were coming together with maybe about 40 or so other persons, some of whom you may never have known. No, and then you're having to be in that living in situation. What was that like?
It was quite interesting, to say the least. But most of all, it was exciting. Right. At this time, if I could paint the picture, a young man, sort of a bit of a introvert, right, could say. Not much of a, you know, communication and dealing with people. Right. And here you are, have to be in a situation where you are living in, you have to at home, yes, with other young people like yourself. So it was interesting for me. It was exciting. We got to do a lot of activities, but most of all, you know, you had that opportunity to come out of your shell, right, sort of in a real sense, right, and interact with other young people. Okay. That for me was, you know, highly exciting, right, sort of a little bit of a spiritual thing to get out, you know, because it's dealing with your own self now, yeah, where you have to come out.
So it helped you to understand yourself, yes, to be independent, yes, of home, and to be able to find yourself in a kind of way. Precisely. Okay, yes. Well, you're correct. Almost like a kind of a spiritual journey.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so were you able to make connections with individuals that probably still maintain today?
Yes, I have. In terms of the field that I wanted to be in terms of our, you know, common liking and stuff like that, yes, we would have interacted and still do interact up to today. And there are other people who just because of their personality and, you know, that, you know, your blood taking somebody, yes, that kind of way, yeah. Right. So because of that, we still interact up to today.
Okay, and yeah, you were in the program for the 9-month period, so yes, it went for 9 months. Yeah. And then what happened, apart from the skills that you would have learned and the general education, and as you said, exploring yourself, anything else significant that you were able to take away from this program?
Yes, there was, in terms of actual knowledge of several things, including getting to know your island a little bit better, right, knowing how, you know, the world operates, right, in terms of political and in a more general sense too. So you were able to get to take away a lot of knowledge from the program. In terms of my own personal development, the videography classes would have helped me a lot in my upbringing and my career path. Yes. Because for today, I am what you might call besides working 8 to 4, yes, in the field also as a audiovisual officer with the THA, I also am an independent filmmaker, okay, writing, producing, and directing films.
Kudos to you.
The Youth Build program would have been very instrumental in my development. It would have been, if I could say, the first touch of my professional development, right, as a video camera operator and a person involved in the film and media and videography right, area.
Great, but tell me, back then, is it that coming into the program you knew this was what you wanted to do, or the program helped give you that exposure?
The program actually did help guided the move from where I was to where I want to be. It was the sort of a, you know, channel, if I could call it, the tunnel, yeah, that would have helped to shape where I wanted to go.
Well, I would say from you chatting with me today, I would say the program did an excellent job, because you tell me that you were this shy, introvert kind of a personality, but I'm seeing you here before the camera, you know, and I mean, in local terms, you're representing. So it means, I want us to get off of the formal a little bit, because in a sense we're speaking to maybe young persons who might be in the place where you were when you came in, and how as a young person you would, what you would want to say to other young persons in terms of responding to opportunities like this, especially for the person, the young man, you know, who is now saying there's no profit in this and there's no profit in this. What would you say to them in terms of the benefits of getting out there and getting involved in programs such as this?
I would say there's a motto that I like to use, 4 words: do the damn thing. But on a more serious note, it is very important to go through the process of finding yourself. It is very important to go through the process where you get to know who you are and what you want to do. Nobody but you know that. Nobody could implant that in you. Even if they or a program might be able to guide and shape and stuff like that. If I could call it, the seed is you. The seed is in you, and you have to start that watering or that guiding process. So in order for it to happen, you have to find it in yourself to know that, okay, this is what I want. I don't know how I would get it, but at least keep what I want at the back of your head, and never lose it. A program as good as Youth Bill could be around for years, but if you don't make that step towards it, it could never happen.
Excellent. So the program was kind of like the watering of the seed. Right. So, but I want you to tell me maybe a little bit about that watering in terms of the organization, the Push Foundation, because Push was at the forefront, the back, the front, the side, everything of this program. And from what you are saying, that they did an excellent job in managing it. Tell me about your interactions with the organization itself, if you had any, and maybe what comments you can make in relation to how the program was managed and organized, and how it would have benefited youth.
Right. So from my experience at Youth Bill, being run by the Push Foundation, I think the Push Foundation is an awesome foundation. I think the management of it, from what I remember in my time, it was very well managed. It is always a situation of sometimes hardship, being an NGO, looking for the support, going out there to get the support from, and trying to, let people who could support see what you see the bigger picture. And I think they are very, if you could say, very well grounded in terms of keeping the dream, keeping the goal alive. Because in a world where you could face many no's and get, disheartened and disoriented, Push Foundation always find that strength to push through the no's and push towards the yes. I think it's an organization that was managed very well, and I do wish them all the success in the future, even if it means that I am able to help in some way or the other.
Okay, so we are looking at the Youth Build program then, now, and beyond. So tell us, as a product of the Youth Build program, who is Wayne John?
Wayne John is a dreamer. Wayne John is a very goal-oriented type of person. I'm a person who has a lot of, big dreams, especially for my career, and in terms of using my career to promote the island of Tobago. Wayne John is a person who is family oriented, married with 4 children, and it is my dream and goal and intention of passing a lot of what I would have gained from programs such as the Youth Build program run by the Push Foundation, to impart that to the next generation, of which I have 4.
4 you're contributing. Great. So tell me, do you see a place now in modern Tobago, in this society that we have? Do you see a place for a program such as Youth Build?
Oh yes. Oh yes, very much so. Youth Build is a place that would teach you your history. It's a place that teaches you a lot in the field that you want to be in.
Yeah.
Even if they don't offer the exact program, they would give you such a start so that you are then able to move forward from there into what you want to do. And I always like to describe Tobago as historians or filmmakers' playground. And with the history and the knowledge, if you just look around, you're seeing a lot of the history on some of these placards, telling you some of the people who would have contributed. And so there are a lot of information that we could get in Tobago to learn about ourselves, and programs such as the Youth Build program is one of those that could help to move those information from the past to the present, so as to help shape and develop and guide our future.
Excellent, and I think that's an important link you're making there, because we do have many programs that offer the skills training and life skills and so on, but that ingredient is one that is not present in many, where it gives you the history and the significance of where we came from to where we're going. So Mr. John, I'm told that the motto of the Youth Build program was learn, grow and serve. So we spoke a lot about learning. We've seen the growth that you've demonstrated. So tell me about this service, because I think this was one of the exciting parts of the program.
Oh yes. Well, Youth Build was a program where the participants were allowed to, well, after learning and growing, you are now given the opportunity to go out into the community and make an impact. It is a program that was run by the participants having to complete a certain amount of hours. I think it was about 480 hours of service in order to attain the community service certificate. So there are a number of programs that we were involved in. If I could try to remember some off the bat of my head. We would have worked with TEMA. I think it was just around the time when they were developing their CERT program. And that
I think I remember
arm of the arm of TEMA. So we would have been privy to, learning how the organization works. We would have been involved in, gaining first-hand experience and knowledge of them dealing with, I can't remember the name of the hurricane at the time that hit Tobago, and we were actually involved in it, in TEMA, dealing with response first responding
right.
and stuff like that. We were volunteers at, I think it was 2000 and the Carifta game that happened around 2004 thereabout.
Yeah.
We were ushers, some of us were judges, and we were able to, I remember from that experience, we were able to interact with some of the athletes, you know, getting to know them on a personal basis and stuff like that. Some of the athletes came from, well, countries like Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, stuff like that. I remember us going out into the primary schools. And in the primary schools, we were able to assist with like office procedures, basic computer literacy, you know, offering those little classes and stuff like that, helping to, you know, shape and nurture the minds of young children. We were involved in environmental cleanup, so like places like the Bell Garden Bay and other stuff like that, and other places like that we were involved in, you know, maintaining and cleaning up, because of course we can't learn and grow and serve in a community that, you know, is not environmentally clean. So we were involved in those programs. And I think the service part of Youth Build would have given us that. It was one of the programs that at the time offered that or gave that opportunity for real service from the participants to take place.
So were you paid for any of this? And was it about the payment, or did you do all of this?
There was a stipend involved as a youth builder.
Yes.
That's the term, yes. As a youth builder, I was searching for that term for the entire program. As a youth builder, we were given a stipend. I think it was every month or every fortnight. It was so long ago that I can't remember.
Right.
But yes, we were given a stipend. But it really wasn't about the stipend. It was more of, you know, learning and growing and serving in our community. Learning, it was more of a payment for us to grow.
Yes.
Yeah, it was more of a payment for us to grow. At least for me, it was more of a payment to grow. Of course, yes, because you're living and stuff, you need the food, you need this, you need that. The money will come in handy, but the growth and the development of yourself, for me, I could speak for me, was my first, you know, aim and goal.
Well, it certainly seems as though if you would have had a broad experience there, you know, I mean, from gardening to cleaning up to teaching things at primary school to fighting hurricanes. So certainly the Youth Build experience would have given you a kind of an all-round development. And I think it's packaged well within you. And as I say, I'm proud of you today. You're in front of the camera instead of behind the camera. So I think it certainly has been a pleasure chatting with you, Mr. John, and I think just what you've said today augurs well for the program and what it has done, and certainly it is set for young persons now to be able to experience something like this. Before we go, your final word, say something to the young persons who are out there, who are listening right now. What can they do to ensure that they benefit from initiatives such as this if they do present themselves?
Well, Youth Build and programs such like this is needed in our society today. You would have heard what it would have done for me, and what it would have done for a lot of young people across Tobago in the 8 cycles that they would have had. My prayer and my hope today for any young person out there is to realize your potential, don't let anyone talk you out of it, but most importantly, do something about it, because having it alone is not enough. You have to get up and get. And programs such as this, when they present themselves, I am advising and I'm pleading that we take all advantage of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. John, and thank you for chatting with us today. As one of the young persons who would have benefited from this pioneering project of the Push Foundation Youth Build. And you are forever a youth builder.
Yes.
Having impacted the landscape of Tobago. Another successful project undertaken by the Push Foundation during the period of 2002 to 2007 that would have changed and transformed the lives of many Tobago young persons and created them into good, active citizens. Thank you very much for listening and viewing.